I'm finally back after spending over 3 months away from PES when my PC exploded while making my annual realism review. I installed 3 months worth of mods and fired up the game on Datapack 3. So what's my first impression? Wow, not only did the game look ridiculously good with all the mods that came out, but the game immediately felt even smoother than the last time I played it. And yes, this is an exclusive first look at a yet-to-be-released fog weather mod by Jeremiah Asoba, which as you can see has monumentally elevated the realism of the stock game's visuals. But I'm making my next video about the best mods to use, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. I knew I needed to review this game again now, but after 3 months of not playing any games, was my muscle memory for full manual controls still intact? Keep in mind that I only play against Superstar, and using this tricky realistic broadcast camera view. Well, turns out my muscle memory was just fine.
Can I trust you?
It didn't take long for me to get the ball moving around the pitch using full manual controls the way the game was meant to be played. The runs that players make on the pitch compared to FIFA's zombies are just begging for manual controls to take full advantage of them. In this play, you can already see Robbo sprinting down the sideline. An assisted pass would land the ball at his feet, while an assisted through pass would be placed ahead of Kearney right around there. But Henderson goes for the superior manual pass forward, and I want you to look closely at what Mane pulls off here. What I did here was drag the ball away from the defender using the left stick while passing forward using the right stick, and the game's engine finds the animation to make it work smoothly. This tight integration of skill moves with passing animations is seen again by Firmino here, and it makes for a smoother, more exciting flow of play when playing PES. Those were intentional trick passes, not to be confused with others that happened with no special input. Using a manual non-restricted power bar to drive the ball from one end to the other was just as satisfying as it's always been. And that's true whether you're cutting through to a winger running along the sideline, or to a striker skipping behind defense. And these clever player runs are the biggest reason why we continue to play PES and not FIFA. And even though it didn't take me long to pull off those accurately weighted manual passes, my manual shooting muscle memory was far from fully recovered. I consistently messed up either the power bar gauge or the direction of my manual shots, even with an empty goal. But I actually found long-range manual shots a lot easier to unleash during my comeback, especially when meeting balls moving away from the goal towards the player taking the shot. Which was exactly how I scored my first fully manual screamer on my first match upon my return. It's a realistic way of producing straight shots on target, but it is far from a guaranteed way to score screamers, especially given how good the keepers are in PES, and I'll get to that later. Of course, it's easier when you have all the time in the world to adjust your aim in relation to the direction of your run, or just a brief pause to fix your aim when the margins are so slim. But even with correct positioning, I'm struggling to get the ball to swerve in with manual finesse shots. So far, the only manual finesse I've scored since coming back used some help from the defender. That said, this final body adjustment is extremely important in PES because the game chooses an animation depending on the orientation of the ball in relation to the body at the time a shot is taken. And it's not just a cosmetic animation, the ball will behave differently according to this chosen animation. In this example, Modric is facing forward and the ball can be hit by either foot, so he defaults to his dominant right foot, and look how the ball majestically swerves inside out as a result of that choice. On the other hand, in this example I'm aiming upwards towards the other side of the pitch, but the ball is far from Robbo's dominant left foot, so the only way to deliver the ball in this direction is using his right foot, and look how the ball beautifully swerves in response to the way he strikes it. And no, this is not an example of a fixed referee detecting a collision. If you look closely, Kante clearly goes for a tackle right before it happens. As expected, this broken aspect of the referee AI and its inability to detect illegal collisions has not and will not change before next year's game. That doesn't mean it's not infuriating, especially when it prevents penalties from being given, or when it allows goals to be conceded. And it's not the AI cheating, since they too won't get penalties from similar collisions. But it's also very random. In this play, Matip concedes a penalty despite a seemingly perfect tackle that got to the ball first. But when you closely examine the replay, you can see his right arm touch Gabriel's right foot before clearing the ball. So I think the engine only detects collisions to the feet. In this example, the referee awards a foul against Henderson even though he got to the ball first before being kicked by Townsend, because the referee AI sees it as Henderson interrupting Townsend's kick animation. This is a completely separate issue from the referee intentionally ignoring Frank fouls in the box, like an elbow to the face, which would otherwise be penalized anywhere else on the pitch. And of course, nothing's changed about players getting routinely pulled back without receiving a foul. And while I continue to be impressed by this year's referee ignoring non-interfering offside players, which wasn't the case in the previous years, you better hope your cursor doesn't automatically shift to that player, otherwise the referee will consider him interfering even if he wasn't. You also better hope the ball doesn't land at your player's feet after you're fouled, because the referee will inappropriately give an advantage even though the free kick is way more valuable, especially given how much of a joy they are to pull off in PES. But then the referee will not allow play to continue with an advantage for non-consequential fouls way in the back. I mean, these aren't the fouls I'm looking to get called. And finally, we already knew this, but there's still no handball in this game. And before you go play FIFA because the referee in PES sucks, I want you to watch this. Yes, this actually happened. This is Varane literally punching the ball out of the goal in FIFA 21. Speaking of FIFA and the things that you can't do in it, the physics of whipping a manual cross into the box and meeting it with a header remains to be the single most satisfying way to score in PES, especially when the swerve of the lofted cross is captured from this realistic broadcast camera mod. Now I might score many of those headers in my videos, but these are just highlights of my gameplay. And the truth is, getting a manual cross accurately delivered is the most challenging part of full manual controls, especially that it also needs to land precisely on the player's head. But similar to shooting, it's easier to whip in a manual lofted cross when the ball is passed towards you. And yes, I'm still struggling with being unable to score headers off of set pieces, no matter how easy the header seems. I did score once off a low corner, but it wasn't a header. I got close a few times with a few set pieces so far, but as I've mentioned in the full review, the keeper's reflexes are very well tuned this year, which is generally the case even with close range headers from open play. I raved about the goalkeepers in my full review, and my impression has not changed one bit. It's not just the way they spread out when exiting the goal, making themselves bigger with their flaying arms as well as an excellent use of legs, but I was truly impressed by how fast they recovered and went the extra mile to sweep the ball away from danger. No matter how hopeless it seems, bringing out the keeper is almost always a good idea this year. And I actually wish the AI would use it more often, like in this example where the AI keeper could have tried to meet the ball. But unlike when I played the game 3 months ago, these enhanced exits are no longer immune to fouls, as I had clearly shown in my review, and my keeper did get a red card once. And here's another lovely save, and if we rewind, you'll see that players still do a good job staying on their feet. But rest assured, keepers are far from superhuman and require a little extra skill to get the ball past them. As a matter of fact, and I've already tweeted about this, so be sure to follow me there. But I find it extremely impressive and realistic how harder it is for keepers to catch a ball without maintaining proper line of sight. Like in this example, you have 2 players blocking the shot. And in this play, I decide to meet the ball with a volley that slams it into the back of the net. But if you look closely, you'll notice Loris reacting way too late to the shot. Looking at the replay, it becomes obvious that he didn't even see it with 2 players blocking his line of sight. And it wasn't until Firmino moved aside that he started to react to it. The way a keeper will struggle to properly block a shot with an obstructed view is part of the unique realistic beauty of PES. Up close, a fully modded PES will look good enough. But nowhere as good as next-gen FIFA with its individually rendered hair strands. But unlike FIFA, I find that PES has this subtle, scrappy, realistic random beauty to it, where anything can happen in an inviting, realistic way. This scrappiness is further augmented by the untidy nature of manual controls, making no two goals alike in this game. So that's it for this mini review. You can stick around for the after credits scene, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. So I want to thank all those who really helped me patch up my computer to get my channel back running. It's still not fully fixed, it's still overheating, but it should be good enough till I get a new one soon. The only way I could thank those who donated was by sharing my mod folders in a hassle-free copy-paste format. Now again, all these mods are 100% free. They're all on EvoWeb. You can get Cider installed and install the mods you want in your game. The folders I've shared with my supporters aren't the only all-in-one available. Virtua Red recently released their all-in-one mod. The Dream Patch is another option with emphasis on Latin American leagues, and I've linked to all those free mods in the description. Now I don't think any of them chose to include my broadcast camera mods, but it's not for everyone anyway, and it's quite hard to play with that view unless you're used to it, which I am. Finally, I must again thank Jeremiah Asoba, who made and allowed me to use what is in my opinion the most important two mods which you've seen in action today. He literally watched highlights from every stadium in most European competitions to get the game to look like the version you see on TV. I'll talk about his incredible work in my next video, so stay tuned for that, and see you in the next one.
Trust you.